people talk about a country risk going from the outside and slowly closing into the inside. I hope you can follow me, and I am very sure that you will get a lot of information. I'm sorry to say that, but as you will see, we have time for questions, and later on, if there are anything else that you want to discuss, but maybe not in this group, there will be my contact details. You are always very welcome to just write me, and we can talk about the greatest kingdom in the world. Talking about the world, this is it. That's the country risk map. Country risk. I think that's important that we are on the common ground when we talk about country risks, because what you probably know are ratings from Moody's, Fitch, etc. And they say that a certain country has a certain rating. But what does this rating actually say? What it means is the probability of a default, and now important, of sovereign risk. Sovereign risk. What we are looking at is not sovereign risk. We are looking at the probability of default of an export credit on a time horizon of 6 months. So we have a little bit different view on the world. What we include in our country risks are: what is the business climate in a country? How easy is it to do business? I can assure you it is very more easier to do it in Belgium than in India or in Zimbabwe, for example. The other thing is payment experience. So all of our numbers that we get as a credit insurance, we use, of course, for our assessment of risks. How high is the risk that a payment is overdue, that it will be not paid at all? Then macroeconomics. You will see that this will be a very important part of this presentation. So macroeconomics is a very big part. Then we have banking risks. I think that's clear since the 2008-9 financial market crisis. We have political risks, which I have to say are not such a big thing in Belgium or in other Western European countries than, for example, compared to some African countries. And then finally, climate risk. Climate change risk means, okay, how strong is a country impacted by it? And on the other side, what is it doing to prevent anything that would happen to have an impact on the economy? So all this together is giving us a country risk grade. And here you see it for in total 162 countries in the world. We do it 3 times a year. And this is the current result. You see, we have quite a wide range from A over B, C, D, and E. E is extreme high risk, means this is a country where we say, okay, we don't do any business, either because there is a very big and unobservable, really, military conflict where you have no feeling what's going on at all. You see, for example, that Russia and Ukraine are not in E, they are D countries. Or the country is on a US sanction list, like Venezuela, like Cuba, like North Korea. So this is where we say, okay, we don't do business here. All others are between A and D, and as A is quite a wide field, you see that Europe would be one color if we only have A. We subdivided it into A1 to A4, A1 the best grade that we can give. And we just published this country map, as Chris has mentioned a bit. It's also in our handbook, hand guide that you will get. But let's have a short look on what has happened. And I would say we start here with Barbados. Barbados upgraded from D to C. Barbados, in economy which is highly dependent on tourism, on foreign reserves, as they are importing most of it in US dollar, and public deficit is an important thing. So all of that has improved a lot. They are back to pre-pandemic levels. So glad to say we are in C now here. We have Namibia here in B. Namibia is doing better now, had some fiscal problems, but due to higher output in mining, means especially diamonds, uranium and gold, they improved. Mauritius, A4, had an an increase in growth. Inflation came down and had a better situation because they divide more their sector base. They are not so much focused on one sector like tourism anymore, but more going now into textile and sure, apparently. We have Georgia and Kyrgyzstan, both upgraded due to better growth experiences. Armenia here in B. Yeah, that must be Armenia. Sorry, I had to look it up. Armenia in B also because better growth experience. And as you remember, they had a bigger conflict with Azerbaijan, and now there are at least better negotiations going on. So these are these countries. We go into Europe, or maybe just one thing. Yes, we had one downgrade. The downgrade is related to Israel. I do not think that I have to explain that to you. Economically speaking, we had already, before the attack happened in October, some problems in Israel, but now with the war happening in the Gaza Strip, and many people cannot work because they are now in war, in military. This had an impact. Okay, and now we are coming to Europe. Europe, we have Romania. Romania up now to A4 due to better economic growth and more support from the EU coming to Romania. We have Albania here, had some very harsh days, but now because living costs went really out of any scheme, now they have fewer price cap. Government is doing a little bit better, and government now became more stable because that was also a political thing, that they had so much conflicts that they could not do anything regarding reforms. We have Croatia in A3. Croatia, last year they became a member of the Schengen area and the Euro, and profited immensely from it. And now the fruits of this profit are shown in this upgrade. And we get now very close to Belgium. So first of all, two A1s now in our department here. We have Denmark upgraded to A1. Denmark, as you maybe know, has a very big pharmaceutical sector and is profiting extremely from this new, I mean, it's not really new anymore, this shot to reduce your weight, this diabetes shot. And Switzerland also now in A1 again. Switzerland profiting first of all from lower inflation in the beginning, means lower increase of interest rates, but also their main exports are pharmaceuticals and luxury products, which is quite convenient because it's not so much general economic driven. The demand is quite stable. And finally, and I'm very proud that this is the case, Belgium. Belgium now in A2. And I think it's important to say that because, as you see, the main big neighbors, Germany and France, are still in A3. The rest is in A3. So A2 is only shared with the Netherlands here. And we have some A1s here in the north and a little bit in the south. But as you see, A2 is the same as the Netherlands, as Canada, as the United States. It's the second best grade that we have. And I think it's really worth to get into that a little bit closer. But before we talk a little bit about general growth expectations, because I think that's important, Belgium is a trading nation, and therefore general global GDP has a big impact. You see here on the left-hand side our growth for the world, so it's global growth. You see here, these are the growth rates, and where is it coming from? Of course, most of the time it's coming from emerging markets. They have a higher growth potential. But you see that this growth dynamic is coming down. If you just exclude here the pandemic level, then you see that already 2019 was definitely lower than in the past, 2.6. We came back to 2.6 in 2023 and are now heading for 2.2. 2.2 is really one of the lowest growth dynamics in the last 14 years, as you see, if you, of course, take away the pandemic. And we see really that, first of all, we have and we have the real estate crisis there. But also the US are not as strong as they were. United States are here in this light blue. Here, these are the general GDP outlooks for some different countries. As I said, China is coming down, the US are coming down. I will talk about the reasons in a minute. And also when you see the rest of Western Europe, except for Spain, everything is really not doing well. The only one which seems quite stable is Belgium. And the reason why Spain is quite strong is because it's strong in tourism. They still have a comeback from the pandemic. So they have rebound, catch up effect there on the one side, and on the other, I'm not sure how it is with you privately, but I see that, of course, I have lower purchasing power because of the high inflation, and I have to save some money if I want to get along with it. But where do I save? It's most of the time that I save in consumer goods, but not as much as in services, as in tourism. And that's something that Spain is profiting right now from. As I said, Belgium with 1.5 last year and 1.5 expected for this year, it's very stable. And that's also one reason why we upgraded it. I think it's a bit more obvious when you look here at the GDP development starting from the beginning of the pandemic. So we put everything at 100 in Q4 2019 and then just see where it goes. It's real and seasonally adjusted GDP. And you see that if we are following, for example, the United States, they went down, they went up and had then a little bit bumpy development and are going up here. So they have, in this comparison, the strongest GDP development and had now in Q4 a plus of 0.8 quarter over quarter, not annualized. This is the Netherlands. The Netherlands went up quite steeply because party as long as the music is playing, the theme of the Netherlands. But unfortunately, at some point, every party has to end, and that was something that happened. They went up steep, and now they cannot hold this pace. But then there is this pink line, and this pink line is Belgium. Here it went down quite a lot, but then from here on around, from 2021 on, stable growth, stable. And that's important because that's really unique right now in Western Europe. We do not have any other country where we have stable growth. That's not there. And the stable, they are not really big growth rates, but they are stable and positive, and this is adding up and adding up and adding up. And I think it's quite obvious when you compare this line with the one in yellow or mustard colored, which is Germany. Germany is at the 100 line. We have not progressed really besides the pre-pandemic level. We are at it. It's a little bit like the zero line in Grey's Anatomy. You know it. It's not a good sign if the patient has a zero line. And that's what's happening here in Germany. And a little bit better here in France. France is here in red, but you see the dynamic is not there. The dynamic is really in the US. Yes, now a little bit down, but still good in the Netherlands and in Belgium. All of these three countries are in A2. Where is this driving come from in the US? Because first I want to say we want to look a little bit on the US, one of the main 5 big trading partners of Belgium. And to be honest, I was an US economist for quite a long time. The main rule was if the consumer is happy, then the economy is happy. 70% of the GDP is private consumption, most of the time in goods. That's why it's important to have credit cards in the United States. And this is actually something that we saw in the last 2 years. This is the index of retail sales and even excluding motor vehicles or food services. So taking that away, we see that there was quite a strong improvement. Then it went down a little bit and is now on a sidewards light positive way. So it is private consumption of goods which has driven the GDP growth of the United States. The question is, can that keep on? Well, what is important to remember is that the United States had not that strong impact via higher inflation because they didn't have this impact via higher natural gas prices. They produce their own natural gas, so that was not a thing. They had strong wage increases because the labor market was tight, especially in 2021 when everybody wanted to come back and really had a strong push of demand. However, at some point, this is leveling itself out. So at some point, it is that when you see on the right-hand side, the savings rate is going down because a lot of this consumption was also made via reducing their savings, which is, of course, perfectly fine. But the problem is at some point, the savings rate is so low that people are more getting back to normal business. And that's what we have here roughly in 2023, 2022 already a little bit, that we are definitely below the pre-pandemic level of the savings rate and want to come back, which is our assumption behind the forecast that the growth cannot keep up like that because consumption is going down. That's the way in the United States, but the question is what is behind this growth in Belgium, and can it keep up, and is it sustainable? Well, I would say to investigate that a little bit, we should go first on looking at what is behind the GDP numbers, and that's the GDP quarter over quarter in percent. And sorry, that's not correct. That's not year over year, but quarter over quarter in percent contributions to percentage change. So we see here what are the main contributors to this growth. We see here it's always positive, which is a very, very good sign. What is behind it? Private consumption is in dark blue, which was the case especially in 2021 due to the comeback from the lockdowns. And yeah, it's still there. Not always, but quite often. Then private investments are a main contributor here. So private investments are quite strong. The one who's not there or helping at all is net exports. Net exports are exports minus imports. So trade, foreign trade has not helped, and I think that's quite obvious. And state support is in green. Yes, it's there too. So I sum up: it's state support, it's private consumption to a part, and private investments. Can we reproduce what is behind private consumption? Well, I thought, okay, let's look at the retail sales the way as we have looked at for the United States, and that's the result here. So the answer is no, it's not retail sales. It's not that Belgians are buying more stuff and therefore help the economy. You see it here, it's price and seasonally adjusted. And we had, of course, this hiccup during the pandemic, but then it went down quite fast, definitely faster than the one of France or Germany. And I had the feeling I was saving quite a money and not consuming, but this is what Belgium looks like. The problem is we do not have the number in savings, but as we know that consumption, sorry, not savings, services, but as we know, as private consumption is strong and it's not retail sales, it must be services. So services consumption is strong. But I mean, the thing is, you need the money to do that. And the question is, will the money be there in the future as well? So let's have a look at the labor market in Europe. This on the left-hand side, unemployment rates, and maybe you will see that it could be a bit different than the one which is published by the statistical offices in Belgium, because that's the harmonized rate, which makes it comparable between all European countries. Germany here in green is the one with the lowest rate. However, if you see it here, the level now is as high roughly as 2018. So the pressure on the labor market has shrunken a bit compared to what we have seen before. France, we have quite a strong downward development, but as you see, Belgium, yeah, same situation basically as in Germany on a higher level. So yes, the unemployment rate is higher, but we see here the extreme improvement. Then it went up during the pandemic, and then it stabilized a little bit, but on a higher level. And this higher level is again comparable with 2018. So wage increases, yes, depends in which situation and in which job you are. Then you have a little bit more negotiation power. But beside of that, there is not so much developments when it comes to pressure. The big, of course, elephant in the room here, and the big reason why we still have money to consume more in Belgium than in other countries is, of course, the automatic indexation of wages. And that's something that you can see quite obviously here on the right-hand side, European gross wages, where you could think, okay, is there so much power to have higher wages? Well, if you see it here, we had at the beginning of 2023 an increase of over 11% year over year in Belgium, which is far more higher than for the rest. You would think, yeah, but hey, look at France. Well, the reason for this strong increase in France was, please remember, it's year over year, was that many people had lost their job here, got a job here, and therefore between no wage and some wage, there is of course a strong increase. So you can not say that this is coming from negotiation, but this one here is definitely automatic indexation of wages through the pension scheme and then different parts of the different sectors. So yes, we have here the grand positive thing that we have dynamic on that side. The question, however, for me was when I assessed country risk, okay, does this mean that with the higher wages, the inflation is going through the roof? Because at some point, somebody has to pay for it. No, it's quite clear. If you get the money as a consumer, then it could be that the companies who have to pay this wage say, okay, I give it directly back to the consumer because I am increasing my my prices the same way. So it's a little bit like this game where you have this card that nobody wants, and you give it to the next person and the next person and the next person. And that's the big question. So was that the reason why, for example, the inflation was quite high in Belgium? Of course, we had a look into that as well. On the left-hand side, you see the inflation rates of Belgium, and in gray here, the minimum and maximum of the 40 largest advanced economies. So all your peers, together with the Netherlands and the Eurozone. And what you see is that, yes, it went up quite high, especially here in summer 2022. It was not as high as in the Netherlands, and the Netherlands do not have the automatic indexation of wages. The main reason was that many households in the Netherlands are heating with natural gas, and I guess that in northern Belgium it's the same. And these gas contracts are very short term, so max 6 months, so that the adaptation of the contracts was way more faster in the Netherlands, and I guess in the northern Belgium as in other countries. For example, here in Germany, contracts are adapted, I don't know, a year later sometimes. So I had still quite a low natural gas price for heating, even when the market prices of the world went up. And that's the difference. So here we have a strong increase of the prices, but the good thing is when the prices sank of natural gas, it was transferred to the consumers, not at the same pace, but definitely faster than in other countries. And that's the reason why here you and the Netherlands are on the top, but also why you are here at the bottom of inflation rates in the main 40 largest economies. I think it's really important to see where this could be going, where inflation could be going in the next time. And that's why I checked again here Belgium inflation rates, but looked at the main contributors of it. So This one here is the normal inflation rate. And these are the contributions of different parts, like in green transport. Transport are fuel prices, are prices for plane tickets, train tickets, whatever you need to get from place one to place B. We have housing energy. It's the one that I just mentioned. It's natural gas prices, it's prices for electricity. All of that is in this pink line. Then we have food prices. Normal ones as you buy in the supermarket. I think it's quite clear and obvious that by now you have to pay way more for your weekly grocery shopping than 2 years ago. And then we have hospitality and the rest, others. The rest means all the costs that you have as a consumer that are not linked to this one. Means when you buy a new smartphone, when you have a smartphone contract, when you have streaming services, when you are having a new jacket, or when you are just buying a new pen, all of that, these price increases are in others. And I think here it's quite obvious that the strong decrease of prices is coming from housing energy. So because prices came down and then stabilized, we have an effect from one year to another. The thing is that this effect is slowly going out of the system. You see it here that this rate is decreasing, and this means that this inflation rate is going up. The one which is a little bit more robust here are these numbers. Here there is not so much progress, means that while there are no big fuel price increases, at least yet, so CO2 emission prices also had not such a big impact. Food prices are coming down. Well, the increase of the prices, not the prices itself, but the increase of the prices are coming down. It's stabilizing. It is still quite high. And if we just look at this one, we would have an inflation rate of 3.5%. 3.5 is away from the 2% that we are actually aiming at. So 3.5 is the one that we guess we will come back in a medium term over the year 2024 and will remain at that level roughly, dependent, of course, if there are some surprises coming up. But if things stay the same as they are right now, we are expecting something around 3.5%. But to sum up, we have in Belgium stronger consumption. The consumption is coming through higher wages. The wages are not so much coming due to higher inflation, or the costs of the higher wages are not so much transformed into higher inflation. And the question still remains, where are these costs? I think one part where we know it is the state. Some of this is paid by higher budgets. This year, the public budget in Belgium, the Eurozone, France, Germany, and the Netherlands, these year are forecast because we do not know it yet for 2023, and of course not for 2024, but these are the numbers from Eurostat. We see that the ones who are leading it, remember, if it's a positive number, it's a surplus. I know, maybe a little bit uncommon for the one or the other, but Germany and the Netherlands had in the past, before the pandemic, surpluses of their budget. But as you see, Belgium and France are always quite high compared to the rest. France, however, definitely higher than Belgium. That's something that we have to keep in mind. Here it is, of course, extreme due to the pandemic measures, and 2021 still had pandemic measures. Here, as you see, and I mean, it's nothing that is just Belgium and France. It's something that we see in Germany and the Netherlands as well. It's a crisis. You are reacting to crises. Here you have it in 2022 as well because of support measures due to the high inflation to keep it a little bit down. Although, if you look at this part for the Netherlands, it's already extremely low, almost again positive. For 2023 and 2024, however, the numbers for Belgium and France stay quite high. They stay quite high compared to the others. I mean, yes, there are still deficits, but that's something that tells us that compared to other countries, we have here an impact. And one impact could be that the costs or some costs for the automatic indexation of wages is paid via higher budgets, which then result in a further increase of the quite already high debt level. You see it here, this is public debt, and the question how much room for maneuver you have in the future. As you maybe remember, it's also part of our country risks. The higher it is, the harder it is to get debt paid, especially now that interest rates are definitely higher. And you see that already Belgium and France were quite high before the pandemic, went up extremely later on, but remain roughly at that level. It's quite, to be frankly honest, it's quite hard to get lower. You see it here, Netherlands and Germany are roughly at the same. They are not moving that much because, of course, these numbers here, we still have deficits, but it's higher. And that's one thing that we had to keep in mind when we are looking at country risk. Sovereign risk is a thing, but still we said Belgium is in a 2 together with the Netherlands, because the Netherlands do not have this robust growth. They are coming down, but they are better in sovereign risk. The other way around, Belgium, robust growth, but not good in sovereign risk. The question is, has this an impact also on the companies, or is anything taken by the state? If it is the case, it's better for us who are looking at country risks and the risk of not of sovereign default, but of credit export defaults. And there is a medium thing here. First of all, on the left-hand side, we look at new loans to non-financial corporations. So the question, are banks maybe paying via higher credits to the companies for this financial situation? I mean, you have to pay higher wages. Some of it is taken by the state, the government, obviously. We are not giving it too much to consumers, but maybe it's the banks who are suffering. And that's something that I can say, luckily, no, that seems not the case. This here is the index in red, because I think you can see them better for Belgium compared to France, Germany, and the Netherlands. And as you see, the numbers are in general quite stable. They increased a lot during 2020 when there was some financial crushing situation. Of course, people needed more credits to get through the pandemic. Then it went down a lot. Then due to the higher demand in the world, there was an increase, but this increase, for example, was way more sharper in the Netherlands or even Germany than in Belgium. And especially in 2023, we do not see specific movements here. So it's not that this is financed via higher credits. So the question is, maybe profitability has decreased, so that it is the margin of the companies who's coming down. And the answer is yes, some of the margin was coming down in Belgium. You see it here, that's the profitability rate of European corporations, which basically means it's the surplus as a share of total value added of companies added up. And the good thing is that Belgium was on a quite steep improvement here. So you see the level was quite high, came down a lot, but if you compare it, it's still roughly on a level that is comparable with pre-pandemic level. So yes, there was a profitability increase during the pandemic, and due to the automatic indexation of wages, it came down, but it is not that it is on a disturbing level like Have a look at Spain, where I would say, that's not a good situation. Even with the stronger growth, profitability has fallen sharply. But the good thing is that the level was quite high here in Belgium and that it is now on a level that's still acceptable. And for example, if you see it here, Germany is way more lower. Also a reason why Germany is in A3 and not in A2 as Belgium. To sum it up, the question did all of this had an impact on insolvencies? Because that's the main thing in export credit insurance. When your client or when the companies where you are delivering to are getting insolvent, then you have a problem. And this is, yeah, looking at a sign, oh, there could be some stress, but has it materialized in higher insolvencies? And here I give you again the comparison to the main big trading partners. You see here the numbers of insolvencies, non-seasonally adjusted, so pure numbers. We just made them comparable and said that the average of 2019 is 100, so that the level here is comparable with each other. And what is also important is to compare not only the numbers with each other, but the development. Are we back at 2019 levels? Are we below it? Are we above it? And the good thing here is to say that's Belgium. This is 2019, green is 2019. And what we can say is that we are now roughly back at the levels, maybe a tiny bit above here at the end of the year, but we are not above it like in France or like sometimes here in Spain, where we were above 2019 levels and where we already were above in 2022. It's more or less similar development like in or the Netherlands, but nothing where we should say, okay, we should be afraid of it because it is going out of measure. No, what we see is that we are getting to the 2019 levels or a tiny bit above, but that was not a disturbingly high level, but just something that we recognized in the meantime. So to sum it up, yes, the big thing for Belgium is that we have automatic indexation of wages, that consumers could go on, that some of it is paid by the state, which is technically fine until you have to pay it back at some point. And it is paid by companies, but not in an area where we say, okay, that's really disturbing. And that together makes it for us an A2 country. However, and I have to say it's on the edge now. So we just made it over the edge to A2. But COFAS is not only assessing country risks, we are also assessing sector risks. Sector risk for a total of 28 economies and 13 different sectors. I brought you here the example of Western Europe. And I guess some of you are already looking, where's Belgium, where's Belgium? Unfortunately, I have to say to you that Belgium is not within these countries. Nevertheless, I think it makes sense to have a look what the sector development is in other big countries. And we see here that we had some upgrades lately, which are mainly in energy sector, energy because we see a stabilization of prices. The whole sector has stabilized. All of the insolvencies that were around energy prices have happened, are now out of the system. And if you look at the turnover of these of the companies, they were in the past quite strong. So some of them profited actually from the situation. The paper industry, however, is the one who is still coming down. Paper, main reason behind that is, of course, that paper, of course, like the normal paper is not used that much. There are not many people who are still printing out handouts like me or are reading paper newspaper. But what is also adding up to it is that, yeah, if you can consume less, then you are also consuming less in terms of packages of Amazon deals, etc. So this is why cartonnage, the packaging, has quite a crisis as well right now. Other sectors who are really in doubt for us are construction and textile clothing. I said we have not Belgium there, but I tried a little bit something, and I hope you enjoy it, because this is a little bit a view on some sectors, well, actually the same sectors, for Belgium. I go through it with you a little bit faster. So this one here is still the risk assessment for total Western Europe. I have not managed to do one of that for Belgium, but what I wanted to show you is a little bit what's going on in the Belgian sectors. These are the insolvency numbers, insolvencies per sector, and the increase or decrease compared to the year before. So agri-food, we had an increase of 19% in 2023 compared to 2022. We have also some where we have strong decreases. The strongest one is pharmaceuticals, but the reason for the strong decrease is there are only very few pharma corporations in Belgium. So if there is even two less, then it could be that it is a decrease of 100%. We have here activity and production. What does it mean? It means most of the time production. It could be also retail sales in terms of retail sales. So this is autumn. Why? Because the last number that we have is right now still November for most sectors. So it is nothing else than September, October, November. Why? Because you can have a bad month, but if you have a bad quarter, then it's a problem. So I'm taking all of them and compare them with the year before. And here you see that there are some who are doing definitely better and others who are not doing as well. Everything between plus and -3 is for me neutral, because it doesn't give you really a sign. And then we have leading indicators from Ecofin, from the Eurostat agency. And we are looking at the business situation in the last 3 months, which is in that case November to January, because the numbers are far more earlier, and what they assess for the future, for the next 3 months. And here you see that we have a little bit more green to it. And if you are looking at all these numbers, I think it's easier for you to assess where Belgium would be in comparison to other countries in Western Europe. So for example, okay, energy is hard to assess because we do not have that much data, unfortunately. But what I can tell you is that while construction seems not good, I can tell you that in most countries it looks even worse. So construction in Belgium is a bit better because the wage effect is not that was not that strong as in other countries. The loss of purchasing power was not as high. So therefore it's a little bit better there. And the same is true for retail sales, which is also a little bit better in Belgium than for the rest. For others, textile clothing is a sector that I think is bad in every single country in Western Europe. But I hope that this gives you a little bit of view how sectors in Belgium would look like if we are assessing them in the same way. And now you made it. So I'm very much looking forward for your questions.
Thank you very much, Christiane. It was clear. If you have questions, just write them in the chat and I'll read them out loud for everybody. Well, I think it was very clear. We don't have any questions.
Okay, if there are no questions,
I see there are two statements, Christiane.
Okay.
So somebody is saying government spending has severely impacted national debt, and I guess we can expect the government spendings will decrease as from July after the elections.
To be honest, thank you for this comment. I can completely, that was a thing when we had this discussion, can we upgrade Belgium? And people came to me and said, yeah, but there is the election. You know, the Belgians, they will not have a government fast enough to do reforms. And I said, yeah, but in terms of Belgium, that's a good sign, because it means that there will be less extra money spent. So yes, that's also a thought that we had, that the budget that I already show you, we have it here, that at least we will not go further than that. While, to be frankly honest, with France, you never know, that there could be an even stronger increase. And yes, we are, it sounds not very nice, I know that, but we at COFAS are looking forward for the election, because it gives us a little bit more sign for more fiscal stability.
Okay. And the second one, we are losing our competitivity because of our too high gross wages.
Yes and no. Yes, there is a loss of competitiveness compared to others, but what you will see is that you are just a little bit faster than other countries. I can assure you that Germany, okay, it will not have such a strong increase. 11.5% was, wow. We will not make that for the whole economy, but I can assure you that other countries are now keeping up. For example, if you would look at Austria, Austria has a little bit thing that is similar to the indexation of wages, but it is always with a delay of 1 year. So that means that now they have the increase of the wages, although the inflation is definitely lower, which means an extreme increase of purchasing power compared what to they have seen before. Germany, negotiations are strong, that we have higher wages. To be very honest with you, I did the same. I negotiated as well, because I thought, think like a Belgian. Yeah, hey, come on, if you can do it, I can do it. And you see also that the Netherlands here, these are unfortunately yearly numbers. For all the others, we have quarterly numbers. These are yearly numbers, which means that 2023 is not there. I can assure you that the Netherlands will have an increase here as well. So yes, you are losing some of the competitiveness there, but others are reducing this gap. Just we need more time. And also, do not take your light too low if you look at this level here of profitability of corporations. And I mean, it's the ECB. It's not any source, it's the ECB. And compare that with the one of Germany, I think you should not hide.
Okay. Another question, what will be the best export market in Europe for agri-food in the next years?
Agri-food.
Very specific.
Support from other countries, and Belgium, as well as the Netherlands, are two of the main import markets for Germany. Think about the Netherlands. They also have to reduce their livestock because of the EU CO2 emission rules. So I think due to these change regarding CO2 emissions and green transformation of the economy, I think there are a lot of possibilities, either unfortunately to go insolvent or to win out of the situation. Depends on the specific position of the farm that you are looking for.
Okay, and quite similar question on the construction sector in the same countries. What's your outlook on that? I think it was in your
Construction
last
sector in these countries or construction in no, can you export construction? Okay.
I don't think it's the export. I think it's mostly the local
It's the outlook. Okay, good. Because I'm just thinking about here. I brought you a house. Construction, as you see, we have quite a lot of dark red, and the dark red is coming from most of the time private construction. So it depends. My answer is it depends in which part of construction you are. When it comes to infrastructure or plants, like buildings that are used for production, then the outlook is still quite good because there are EU funds for it, and there is a demand to build on that. If you are asking for office buildings, the Netherlands as well as in Germany, it's down, and even worse is actually construction of private housing. Why? Because there is no indexation of wages there, so the purchasing power has decreased extremely. The costs of production in construction is still high. It has improved as there are not so much supply chain issues anymore, but it's interesting that the prices did not came back. So some used the situation to adapt their prices, no? And this together with a shortage of skilled workers, because right now everybody is studying at the university like me and not good at working at home like we would need to. The costs are extremely high together with the very high interest rates of the ECB. That has an impact. We have not actually talked about interest rates yet, but our view is that the interest rates level of the ECB will keep on until the summer at least, and then only come down in very small steps, like 25 basis points. So that means even at the end of this year, this level will be very high. I know that some of maybe you or if you are active in financial markets are speculating for early decrease of interest rates, but Christine Lagarde made it very clear that she is willing to reduce the interest rates when we reach 2% for the inflation rate. And there's only a small window there in summer where we reach it or get near to it, all things equal right now. So nothing, if there's no surprise. So this would be a very small window where we could decrease interest rates, but it's not that there will be a fall down to pre-pandemic normal levels. So or pre-Ukraine war normal levels. So therefore it's very costly, and that's why especially in Germany and especially in the Netherlands, construction is they had very good years and now they are over.
Okay, and maybe just a last one to conclude the webinar. How attractive is Belgium for foreign investors?
In general, it's quite attractive. I mean, think about it. It proved quite a stability during severe situations like right now, where other bigger economies who seem to be more stable, like Germany, like France, are not moving. So I would use Belgium as my insurance for bad times, because Belgium is proving itself that it is developing better in not so good times. There is still the fact of public debt. The question is, how do you see public debt? Because it gets then, or it becomes really a problem if you have to pay it back at some point. But when would be that the case? So that's the thing. It's sometimes a bit problematic with the government, because due to this Vivaldi coalition, and I now just assume that we will get something like that after the next election, or at least I hope for that, then too many people working on something is not helpful, so bigger reforms are not there. nevertheless, Belgium has the port of Antwerp, has very good trade relationships, and is in the middle of Europe. So I would say it's a favorable situation, especially in economic turbulent times like right now. If you want to know actually more on that, we have here more material. So you will get, as I learned already, this country risk handbook where we have an overview of all 162 countries that we are covering, as well as all 13 big sectors worldwide. And if you want to have a stronger look at certain details, which show you how we see right now the economic environment, not only for countries in Europe, but also all over the world. Here is the barometer where we explain 3 times a year our latest country and sector risk changes. And if that's not enough, we have more material like payment surveys, like focuses, like studies on single countries. Just go on cofas.com and then you have full access to that. And if you should have later on questions that you do not want to discuss with the others or with Chris maybe, then just write me an email and I'm happy to answer you there as well.
Okay, and from my side, thank you very much, Christiana, once again for the clear presentation. I would also like to thank all the attendees. Keep following us on LinkedIn, and if we have new webinars or events coming up, you'll be noticed right away. Have a good noon and a good lunch.